Hi everybody, welcome to the February Supper Club 2015. Dee and I were talking more about our theme, the Love Thy Neighbor theme, and came across an interesting article this week. I don't know the exact title, but something like "The cause of addiction has been found and it's not what you think." It was in the Huffington Post?
Yes.
Is that right? And it's a long article and lots of interesting information in it, but a piece of that caught our eye was that there was a famous study done with rats back in the 80s, and there's actually a commercial, and I went, you can still YouTube it, and I found it. I remember this commercial. Did you see it?
I did.
Yeah. You can. If you go online, you'll find it. Basically making the point that they would have two water bottles for rats. One had water, one was laced with heroin or cocaine. And the rat's in there by himself, and after a while they become addicted to the one with the heroin, and 9 out of 10 of them would become so addicted they would actually kill themselves they would take so much of it. Another researcher decided there's something funny about this, in that the rat's always alone, of course. They didn't think to put other rats in there. So he tried a different experiment where he created a rat park where filled it with colorful balls and fun little tubes for the rats to run in and lots of friends, and still had, you could either have the cocaine water or the regular water, and they didn't want the cocaine water. So suddenly, I think it dropped to about a quarter of the rats that were drinking the cocaine water drank at this time, and none of the rats died. It was just a very different relationship to it. So just a fascinating difference that brings up this idea of community that, of course, underlies our Love Thy Neighbor thing.
Yes. And they talked about the addiction actually came from not to the drug,
right,
but it was from a lacking of the community, a lacking of the bonding that was necessary. So there were a couple other things mentioned in that article of ways in which they studied the rats and looked at the addiction wasn't what kept them going with the drug. It truly was the lack of connection, the lack of community. So the addiction became actually more symptomatic of something deeper that they were trying to resolve.
Yeah. It says a lot for us as we think about, I mean, you take a neighborhood like Park Hill, and you look at the different, look at crime, look at gangs, look at hunger issues even, I think. And you think, how much of this is really a reaction to not having the community structures in any neighborhood? I don't need to pick on Park Hill, but for any of the neighborhoods we might look at, if we were to strengthen the community connections, make it a good rat park, so to speak, the way we all need to be, we need to live in places that have colorful balls and tubes to run in and lots of friends. And if we do that, the impact that might have on some of these things that are, as you say, are more symptomatic perhaps than the root cause.
Well, and it makes so much sense because you think theologically, if you think of God and you think of the Trinitarian, our understanding of the Trinity, the doctrine, historically Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, or Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer. There's a three-person part of that. There's that engagement of how each part of the personhood of God. So God's self is very community-oriented, relational. And so from the very beginning, that connection is part of our creation.
Even creation itself, you can think of as, when we think of why is there anything, why is there creation, why does the Creator create? And one of the theological answers is to be in relationship, that God wanted to be in relationship with particularly perhaps human beings, but all of creation. So when you ground these two things in our understanding of what the holy is, then it follows that, well, it seems natural that we too have a deep need to be in relationship with each other. This is some folks have said this is at the level of primal needs, the way hunger is a primal kind of need. We have to have relationships or we die, much like the rats did.
Yes. Or even you think of babies with who have
some of those
unable to thrive if they don't have that connection. They really cannot survive with that.
Right. That's right.
I know having a new puppy with Winnie, and it's been pretty comical because it's not even that I enter the room anymore, but it's like the puppy's here,
Winnie's here,
Winnie's here. But there's such an outreach, and what I'm aware of is how many people reach out for that contact, for that connection, for that moment of making that link to someone outside of themselves. If it's a puppy, that's the invitation to do that. But how often that happens where people are just longing for those connections.
And the puppy gives them that permission to break through, because so many of our relationship or interactions, we're afraid. We're afraid of being rejected, perhaps. Just afraid of I mean, it's in subtle ways. It's afraid of just the awkwardness of if we step into a conversation with someone maybe we don't know, or what if we say something wrong, or we have lots of fears around this thing that we also desperately need. We want to be in community with each other, and we're afraid if we step into that space and we're vulnerable at all. What if they don't like what I've said? What if they don't understand? What if so often we just don't feel heard by other people?
Yeah.
So we didn't perhaps come up with any great answers to this. It just felt like there was a lot of things that we might think about out of this. It just seemed like there was lots of good questions to play with for you all.
So some of the questions we had was to consider your daily life and how many people you interact with. Even if it's just a slight moment, it's the person that you're paying for gas, or it's a person in the checkout lane at the grocery store. Maybe it's somebody you just pass as you're walking down the street. But how important even being seen in that moment, and it may just be for a moment, but to actually make that connection with them, to say hi, or how's your day going, or it's sunny outside, but some way that you're connecting with them, not knowing indeed how their life may be. That could be a radical difference in their life, to have that connection.
Or also, you could turn it inward for your own life and kind of think about, as a question too, to discuss, what about the times where you have tried to be vulnerable or reached out and maybe you weren't accepted or heard the way you wanted to be? How have you responded? How has that impacted you now? Would you say you're still a very open kind of connecting person, or would you withdraw? Where would you maybe some self-reflection and some sharing around your own place in that conversation?
And then the third question truly would be looking in your supper club and around the table, or around the circle y'all created, is to share into the circle, what about this group is meaningful to you? How does that have an impact on you? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's an invitation to go deeper, but how do y'all impact each other, and to really appreciate the qualities, or if there's a quality missing, to engage with each other if you would like more. And so ways that value that connection that we have for each other.
The supper club itself is an example of this, of creating a good, strong community, much like church itself is. Just folks who come and choose church. It's one of the most important things we do in church is create those places where we can make good strong bonds.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Have fun. Thanks.
Bye.